Hi, welcome to the very first episode of the Transcendental Plantsman. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a terrarium build, specifically a carnivorous plant terrarium build. So I have a couple of reasons why I wanted to make this video for you. The biggest being, I purchased this plant several weeks ago. I'm new to carnivorous plants, and I couldn't find the exact video that I was looking for my build. And I've spent the last several weeks trying to understand the needs of this plant, what it's going to want, different things about it, and I found that there were some things missing that I really wish were there. So hopefully this video is helpful. If it is, like and subscribe, and I will keep you updated with the terrarium as it progresses. So without further ado, here is our plant. Today we are featuring this little guy right here. This is a Nepenthes Ventricosa, one of the most common species of Nepenthes pitcher plant. And it is considered a highland variety, which is nice for me. I live in northern British Columbia, Canada, so we definitely have cold temperatures here. It's a little bit harder to maintain a really high humidity and a high temperature. And the highland variations of species of the pitcher plant are a little bit more lenient as far as colder temperatures go. So they do like warm during the day and a little bit cooler in the evening. They do like humidity. They do like to be moist, but they don't like to be sopping, soaking wet, sitting in water 24/7. So this is part of the reason why I wanted to do the terrarium build. I work out of town. I'm not home every day, and I want to create an environment where my Nepenthes can thrive and survive when I'm not here to keep an eye on it. So without further ado, let's go into the actual terrarium process, and we will start by going over the items that we are going to use for our build. Okay, so let's get to the supplies. So I have here some orchid mix, which is Western fir bark. I have your standard perlite, activated charcoal, which I'm not actually putting in the planting mix per se, but we will get to that. Some long sphagnum moss that I pre-soaked overnight. Assorted small pebbles. Now, I did just purchase these in a bag at the dollar store. I did wash them thoroughly. So I do recommend, if you are going to buy like arts and crafts bags of pebbles, that you do wash them quite thoroughly before you use them for any kind of plant terrarium build or in pots. So it came in a bag just like this, nice and simple. It was cheap, probably like $1, $1.50, something like that. And I also bought bagged larger stones right here. So that's pretty much the entirety of what we're going to use to mix for the terrarium for the substrate. And then I have here the terrarium that I'm going to use. So this terrarium, I picked it for a couple of different reasons. I have an assortment of sizes of terrariums that I did purchase, but the problem is, like, if you look at these leaves here, they are quite long. They do branch out quite a bit, and from my understanding, the Nepenthes actually do get fairly large, and they do like hanging baskets, or they like to be able to give their room for their pitchers. So this terrarium provided the most amount of space around for the Nepenthes to actually grow. As you can see, I did select an open terrarium. That's for several reasons. I don't want severe heat. I do want humidity, but I don't want it to be sopping to the point where it could cause mold or rot. And one of the biggest issues is that I work out of town, so I'm gone for a week or two at a time. So I'm trying to create somewhere for my Nepenthes to live with minimal care when I'm not here, that it's still getting what it needs. Now, this terrarium itself is actually designed to sit like this, but I've decided to flip it upside down like this because of this great base here at the bottom. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when we actually start the terrarium build, I'm going to put a layer of stones and charcoal at the bottom there to create a wicking area for water. So in this actual general area, I will have some sitting water, but my Nepenthes will be quite a bit above that. That is hopefully going to create the humidity and moisture that I need within this terrarium for the Nepenthes without over sopping it and having its foot sit in water. Because as I said, the Nepenthes do not like to sit in water. So let's go ahead and get started on the build itself. So first up, we're going to take these stones here. We're going to put a nice layer of gravel at the bottom of our terrarium here. There, so we're gonna come over here, grab some of our charcoal. Now the charcoal, I read online that charcoal is really good for terrariums in the base because it helps reduce the potential for mold. And that's a big thing for me because this is going to be a fairly humid environment. And as I said, I'm not home every day to watch it. So I wanted something that was going to potentially help keep down, you know, mold and algae and things like that. And it works also, it sucks in different types of just grossness from the tank. So we will see how this works. So there we go, get that there. So there's our charcoal base. And now I'm just going to add another layer of pebbles and stones over top of it. Lots of aeration, and that's going to be a nice pocket for our water at the bottom there. Okay, now I'm going to add a layer of sphagnum moss. I did purchase this from a greenhouse. I do not recommend using sphagnum moss that comes prepackaged and dried for art supplies because you don't know what they've done with that moss. You don't know if it's got something in it that when you re-moisten it, if it's going to cause an infection or fungus in your plants. So I definitely wouldn't recommend that. So I'm just going to put that here. And this is just going to be a nice kind of wicking. Let's pull this back a little bit. Just stuff some of that moss down in there. And hopefully that moss will act as a wick for our Nepenthes. And like I said, I did pre-soak this sphagnum moss overnight to hopefully create a nice moist environment for our little friend here. Okay, so now that we have our base layer down in our terrarium and the initial setup done, now we're going to mix the substrate together for the actual planting of the Nepenthes pitcher plant. So again, I have some more long sphagnum moss. I have the orchid mix, which is the fir bark, and it looks like there's some perlite in there as well, and that is soaking. And the sphagnum moss is also pre-soaked. And then the perlite. The big thing about these three mediums is that they are very low on nutrients and they're very high on aeration. So pitcher plants don't like to have tight mediums around their root balls. And that is one of the things that you have to look out for when you're repotting them, is if your material becomes compacted down and compressed, it can actually inhibit the growth of your plant or potentially kill it by strangling it or suffocating it. So what we're going to do is probably about a 2 to 1 to 1 mix of, so it'll be mostly moss with a little bit of the orchid mix and some perlite as well. So we're going to go ahead. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the actual Nepenthes and see what it looks like underneath. So you're going to want to be gentle with these guys when you take them out. I'm hoping to use as much of the substrate that's actually still in the pot as possible. In fact, I think I'm actually just going to cut this pot right off so that we reduce the chance of damage as much as possible. Now with normal plants, I would just, turn it sideways and tap it and try to bring it out that way. The reason I don't want to do that with my Nepenthes is because of the liquid that is in these pitchers. and they have digestive juices in these pitchers that they use for breaking down their food. And you don't want to lose that because just filling it with water isn't going to reproduce those juices. Those are created by the plant. So it's very important that you are mindful of that when doing your own build or repotting your Nepenthes, because it can potentially kill your pitchers if those come out. So let's just... So now that we have it out of the pot, I just want to take a look at it here. So as you can see from it being in the pot, it's actually quite compacted. And that could be an issue. It is growing fairly well right now. It's got some new leaves, and these here are just starting to set new pitchers. But we don't want it compacted in our terrarium. So I'm just going to peel some of this away and have a look. So we can have a nice loose substrate. You do want to do this quite gently. Because you don't want to destroy the roots at all. Just teasing that out lightly. And I also found that when I took the pot off, the substrate that's actually inside, and I do keep this fairly moist since I brought it home, is almost dry. And I do moisten it regularly, and I'm actually quite surprised at how dry it is. So that is something to keep in mind if you're purchasing one from the store. Keep an eye out, and when you're repotting it, just to check those roots and to check that substrate and see how it's actually been doing. Okay, so now we're here at the root ball. And now that we've got this all done and taken care of, we're going to place the Nepenthes inside of our terrarium and plant it. Okay, so let's take a look here. All right, so now we've got our Nepenthes in the actual terrarium. I've tried to build it up in the center a little bit to give a little bit more room to the leaves and more room for the new growing pitchers to hang a little bit. And as you can see, for the size of the terrarium, like this looked like quite a large terrarium, but in fact, this plant takes up a good percentage of it. So there's a good chance in a year or two that I'm going to have to repot this. And potentially by that time, I will have a little bit better of a setup so I can put it into a hanging pot. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to take our lovely little spray bottle here, and we're gonna rinse down the inside of the terrarium. Make sure that that media is good and moist. And again, as I said before, this water is reverse osmosis water, so bottled water from the kitchen. And I've had it sitting in here for a couple of days so that it's about room temperature. And big, huge key thing with your Nepenthes, they do not like minerals in their water. So use rainwater, use distilled water, use bottled water, but don't use tap water unless you know for a fact that you have extremely low mineralization count, because the minerals in your water could potentially kill your Nepenthes plant. So that is pretty much it for our terrarium build. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. And what I will do is an update in 30 or 60 days time to let you know the progress of the Nepenthes and how it's doing. And we will go from there. So if you like the video, again, like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful. Join me again for more videos on different houseplants, outdoor plants, and things of that nature. So bye for now and have a great day.